I was a little boy, one of my favorite shows to watch at the time was One Piece. Now, when One Piece first came over to the West, the dub was not done by Funimation as it is now. It was done by a little company called 4Kids TV. Now, 4Kids TV, well, looking back on it might have been a bit silly, was quite a big deal back in the day. They brought us such classics like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Kirby, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all these very beloved shows. But one thing that always stuck in my mind about 4Kids was the one character who was one of my favorites from One Piece named Sanji. Now, if you read the manga or you watch, any other version besides that 4Kids dub, you know that Sanji smokes cigarettes, as a lot of anime characters do. And the first time that we saw Sanji with 4Kids TV, they did this thing where they dubbed over his cigarette. So instead of a cigarette, it was a lollipop, right? And I was watching it, and my dad, he walked in the room, and he was like, "That looks like a cigarette." And, me being a kid, I turned to him and I'm like, "Dad, what are you talking about? Sanji doesn't smoke cigarettes, that's a lollipop." And my dad thought that was really weird. And looking back, yeah, that was a little bit weird. But as a kid, I just kind of accepted it because it was in the anime series. But why am I talking about the 4Kids dub of One Piece? Well, today's episode, I'll be talking about smoking. First, I will say this. Smoking is bad. Smoking has been shown countless times over the last 100 years how dangerous it is. That the long-term effects can lead to lung damage, cancer, different types of asthma, and all these terrible side effects. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. And what blows my mind is that with all the research that we've done, all the articles and documentaries and films that have come out showing that smoking is bad, people still do it. And it's not just adults that have been smoking for 30 years that are the issue. It's kids, turning 16, 17, 18, buying their first pack of cigarettes and getting hooked at a very young age. And that's a big problem too. And of course, the tobacco industry is a tyrant. They slam any kind of corporation or any lawsuits that ever come. They always have these, maniacal teams of lawyers that just know the right way around so they can do whatever they want and, not get shut down, etc. It's a big, big problem. But what blows my mind the most about smoking is not what the tobacco industry does. We all know that they do all kinds of crooked stuff. It's what our movies do, and it's what our television shows do. Now, the one character that I always think about whenever I see someone smoking or I, hear someone talking about cigarettes, I always think of Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. He's the iconic smoker. He's handsome, he's thin, he's a kung fu master, he's a bounty hunter, he's got his own spaceship, and son of a bitch if he doesn't look cool, whatever he's doing, and that includes smoking a cigarette. Now, while you can argue that, this is just an anime, this is just a television show, that the guy smoking the cigarette has no real consequence, well, that's kind of the problem. See, the problem is, in media such as anime, movies, etc., all these characters that are smoking cigarettes or that smoke cigarettes frequently, we never see any consequence of them smoking cigarettes. We never see anything that comes up because they smoke cigarettes. Now, Spike Spiegel does die at the end of Cowboy Bebop, spoiler alert, but it's not because of the cigarettes, and it's not because of cancer or anything like that. It's because he gets riddled with bullet holes. When the scene comes down and Spike, he's kills Vicious and these guys shoot him and he just goes bang and he collapses and stuff, and it's epic, right? But the problem is that we still associate him smoking cigarettes with being cool. And yeah, he does look cool. And because there's no shown consequence of him smoking a cigarette, it would lead a young audience to associate cigarettes with being cool. And it's not just Cowboy Bebop that does this. All throughout the years, most detective shows where the detectives are hard-edged and smoke cigarettes, or any movies where characters smoke cigarettes. Heck, even video games, there's a lot of characters that smoke cigarettes. Look at Solid Snake. In the original Metal Gear Solid, there was a mission where you have to smoke cigarettes in order to progress to see the lasers. Now, to its credit, in Metal Gear Solid, Snake smoking cigarettes does bring down his health. So, props to them for showing some adequate representation of smoking. But for a lot of other video games, smoking is just a thing that characters do. And because there's a natural disconnect between the real world and all these fictional worlds of characters smoking, what it does is it leaves an impression on the younger audience that smoking is okay. Look at all these cool guys smoking. I can do that too, and I'll be cool like them. The unfortunate reality of children growing up smoking cigarettes is that there will be consequences eventually. Might not see them at first or within the first 10 years or 20 years, but eventually, things start to catch up. Breathing starts to go down, teeth begin to yellow, asthma develops, and even in cases, lung cancer, mouth cancer. But you're never going to see a cartoon or a video game character develop these issues because they're smoking. They just smoke because it's something that they do. But cartoons and video games don't have the same consequences as the real world does. One of my favorite characters of all time, especially for this point in particular, is Bender from Futurama. Bender Bending Rodriguez, the foul-mouthed, alcoholic, smoking, stealing robot. But that's the thing about Bender. Bender's a robot. Bender has no consequence because he smokes. And it's mentioned in-universe that Bender just smokes because he thinks it looks cool. But because he's a robot, he can't develop any of the diseases or the cancers that humans do. Like if Fry or Leela started smoking cigars or cigarettes, it would have different implications. They would get sick, have cancers, etc., but not Bender. And I think in its own way, even though Bender is considered a cool character, that it's an appropriate way to show smoking. You see, Bender can smoke. He's inorganic. There will be no consequences. And if a little kid, goes to a parent after watching an episode of Futurama and says, I want to smoke just like Bender, that's a great opportunity for the parents to say, well, you see, honey, Bender's a robot. Bender can smoke. If you smoke, you'll get really sick because you're human. And the kid will go, oh, okay, Mommy. It's much easier to explain that smoking is bad when a character that is not going to have any consequences for it does it than if a human does it. Because if a kid watches Cowboy Bebop and sees Spike smoking cigarettes, they're going to say, ooh, I want to be just like Spike. And sure, the parents could say, well, he's a cartoon character, he's an anime character. He can smoke and not have any consequence. The kid's not going to listen. The kid's going to see Spike, and he's going to see he's a human, and he's cool, and he's going to try to imitate what he thinks is cool. So what's the answer to this? Is the answer to ban smoking entirely from any genre? Is the answer to censor everything, like in the Japanese version of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where they block out Jotaro smoking because he's underaged? Maybe. I don't necessarily think the answer is to remove it entirely from mediums or edit it from characters, because it can have some effect in building characters, fleshing them out, giving them interesting points. But the important thing to remember is that that's what they are. They're fiction. They're just characters. And I think it's okay for characters to smoke. I don't think it's okay for humans to do it, especially children. Smoking has much more effects on children than it does in adults, especially over the long term. This is just one of those things, unfortunately, that doesn't have an easy answer. And I can't really tell people what to do. I can't control everyone, and I don't think it would be right if I did. Just because I don't smoke, it doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily judge someone because they do. I just think that it would be wise for parents just to sit down with their kids and explain that, yeah, these characters can smoke because they're fake. But if you smoke, you're going to get really, really sick. We have come a long way. You know, the limitation of smoking advertisements, especially in like school areas and through billboards, etc., has been severely dumbed down. Like I don't even think I've ever seen a smoking commercial. So that's a great step in the right direction. But now I think it's up to, it's up to us to decide if that's even a thing we want to allow at all. But hey, who knows? We'll just have to see how it goes. Alright everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been another episode of Kirk Talk, and I will see you in the next one.